In Bolivia, President Luis Arce commemorates the 15th anniversary of the creation of the Plurinational State of Bolivia with a message to the nation calling for unity and cooperation. In Palestine, the Red Crescent confirms that Zionist troops attacked the Nasser medical facility, the most important in Khan Yunis. In Uganda, leaders and heads of governments demand the transformation of the financial system and condemn the genocide against the Palestinian people in the last day of the G77 China summit. Hello, welcome from the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Bolivia, President Luis Arce commemorates the 15th anniversary of the creation of the Plurinational State of Bolivia with a message to the nation. From the Casa Grande del Pueblo, the seat of government, the President highlighted the union among Bolivians and urged them to maintain cooperation in a harmonious and sustainable manner for the continued development of the Plurinational State. During his speech, the head of state pointed out that the premise of the plurinational state has always been to build an inclusive, equitable society which retakes ancestral knowledge and pays permanent homage to the people's struggle to recover natural resources. Luis Arce also emphasized that the new economic model sets the country on the path of industrialization. In Lima, the capital of Peru, countries of the Andean community approved a regional plan of action to counteract crime. The meeting convened at the initiative of Bolivia, country currently sharing the alliance, is the first sub-regional response to the wave of violence unleashed in Ecuador. The initial result has been an agreement signed by Bolivia, Colombia, Ecuador, and Peru, which among other aspects creates the Andean Security Network against organized crime. This agreement will allow, as explained by Gonzalo Gutierrez, Secretary General of the organization, the joint action of the four countries in the fight against crime. This cooperation and intelligence agency will provide and receive information from other countries on the activity of criminal groups that they have and will alert in an immediate manner and on relevant acts perpetrated by these organizations.
Since the consequences of transnational organized crime and other related crimes are regional in scope, it is also necessary to promote urgent joint actions at that level in order to combat the scourge that affects the security, peace, and economy of the countries of the Andean community.
The Secretary General also provided details on the functioning of the high-level group set up at that meeting.
Create a high-level group confirmed by officials designated by the Ministers of Foreign Affairs and Ministers of Internal Security or authorities that fulfill such functions, which will have the support of the General Secretariat of the Andean Community, which will be responsible for follow up on the Resolution Action Plan to combat transnational organized crime, and propose to the Andean Council of Ministers of Foreign Affairs complementary measures to the action plan, including the relevance of creating or reactivating committees with the specific working groups.
In memory of Colombian Senator Piedad Córdoba, let us remember how in the program Causa Justa of our multi-platform she advocated for construction of peace and fair democracy in Colombia.
For 65 years, we have been asking for peace, begging for peace, waiting for peace. And today we can no longer ask for it, nor beg for it, nor wait for it. If an agreement is reached between the government and the guerrillas, we have to build peace among all of us. Peace for a just cause. Peace for a democracy without cheating. Peace with real affection in our hearts. Peace with true generosity. And the only condition for this peace to be built is that they do not kill the protests, that they do not annihilate the peaceful protests, that they allow the ideas to flourish that will allow these great and patient people to be masters of themselves and their future.
We also remember how Senator Piedad Córdoba worked tirelessly for the right of new generations of Colombians to live in peace.
I risk all my political capital and I do not regret it, even if I do not have the rights now. And the best legacy I can leave to my grandchildren, definitely to the children of this country, is to have done everything necessary for this to happen.
This Sunday in Venezuela died the frigate captain and historic leader of the revolutionary movement El Porteñazo, Victor Hugo Morales, at the age of 96. Captain Morales led the revolutionary movement known as El Porteñazo on June 2, 1962, in the city of Puerto Cabello, Carabobo State, when he rose up against the regime of Romulo Betancourt. The Bolivarian Minister for Culture, Nestor Villegas, announced the news through his account on the social media X, where he shared an interview made recently to Captain Morales in which he ratified the importance of unity in the revolutionary struggle. President Nicolás Maduro also expressed his condolences to his families and dedicated words of recognition through his social media to the revolutionary hero who gave his life to the people's struggle. In Ecuador, the government presented on Sunday a balance sheet of the operation deployed after declaring an armed conflict. More than 2,700 people have been detained. According to the balance sheet of the security forces, in more than 31,500 operations, more than 2,700 people have been arrested, although the balance sheet does not specify many could be charged with terrorism-related charges, as announced by the Interior and Defense Ministers at the beginning of these operations. The report also states that 22 organized crime groups have been classified as terrorist groups, and a large number of weapons have been seized. Hours after the balance was announced, a group of armed men attempted to take over a hospital in the southwest of the country. And on Sunday, a group of criminals assassinated the Haitian Vice Consul Claude TeleSUR in the Dominican Republic in front of the Cap Haitien airport in northern Haiti. The Haitian community is in shock after the tragic and senseless death of Claude TeleSUR, who was serving as Vice Consul in Dajabon. Hooded Haitian criminals intercepted TeleSUR in front of the Cap Haitien airport and opened fire with pistols and shotguns, causing his death at the scene of the incident. TeleSUR was known as a strict, hard-working person and defender of the rights of Haitians at the border crossing between Haiti and the Dominican Republic. The violence that led to TeleSUR's death has prompted concern among officials at Haitian consular offices in the northeastern area of Haiti. Many have removed their families from the territory due to the prevailing insecurity. In Cuba, the international conference Operation Truth is held on the 65th anniversary of one of the most revolutionary communication feats of Commander Fidel Castro. President Miguel Díaz-Canel intervened in the meeting that brings together more than 60 delegates from 30 countries. They commemorate the response of an incipient revolution to the propaganda apparatus of the United States through agencies such as AP, UP, and Newsweek. The president of Prensa Latina, Luis Enrique González, recalled that 65 years ago, Commander Castro, with the support of a group of Cuban journalists, gathered more than 300 foreign correspondents to tell them the truth about what was happening on the island after the triumph of the revolution. In the meeting was ratified the importance of maintaining alternative projects to the single pro-imperialist thought.
Wherever there is today an alternative communication project to lies, manipulation, hegemony, and the subtle bias that induces so much prejudice towards our identities, our autochthonous cultures, our brave peoples who resist with a big courage. Wherever there are today alternative projects to the pro-imperialist unified system, there is an Operation Truth in progress.
Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at TeleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back from the south. The Palestinian media reported on Monday that the Israeli occupation forces repeated another night of terror in Khan Yunis after shelling several residential areas. They also attacked the Nasser hospital. In this regard, the Red Crescent confirmed that after reporting a heavy siege by Zionist troops around the Nasser medical complex, the most important medical facility in Khan Yunis, they have lost all communication with their staff. Several explosions were heard after the military deployment, and before being cut off, the doctors confirmed the arrival of numerous wounded from the Al Amal neighborhood, almost all of them children and women. It should be noted that attacks on health centers, according to international humanitarian law, is a war crime. The Israeli occupation army in the Gaza Strip committed at least 20 massacres in the last 24 hours. At least 190 Palestinians lost their life in these actions. According to the Palestinian Ministry of Health, the attacks also left nearly 340 wounded. Following these incursions, the Israeli army communicated its decision to reduce the size of its forces in Gaza and transfer some of them to the West Bank. The massacres come at a time when the Israeli media reported that Tel Aviv army has moved to the third phase of the war on Gaza that includes bombing specific targets in the Gaza Strip. According to the authorities, more than 25,000 Palestinians have been killed since the beginning of the Zionist military incursions on October 7, 2023. The Palestinian government labeled as theft and an exercise in piracy the occupiers' proposal to manage the taxes that belong to the Palestinians since they pay them despite the fact that Israel has kept them frozen since November 2023. For the Secretary of the Executive Committee of the Organization for the Liberation of Palestine, Hussein al-Sheikh, the conditions imposed by the occupier are unacceptable. Israel approved the transfer to Norway of the funds it collects from the Palestinians in the name of the government of Palestine without its authorization, which it can only transfer when Israel authorizes it. Al-Sheikh calls on the international community to stop Zionist piracy. Thousands of Israelis demonstrated once again against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Tel Aviv. This Saturday, they have demanded again his departure from the government and immediate elections. A poster leading the walk demanded the Israeli government to go home now. They questioned the security management prior to October 7th and the failure of the operations in Gaza, where not a single hostage has been rescued. This is the first mass demonstration of 2024 and coincides with the release of opinion polls that show a clear weakening of the government. Several relatives of those held by Hamas claim that the Prime Minister has preferred to kill the hostages rather than rescue them. Iran will maintain its advisors in the fight against terrorism in Syria and will respond to the Israeli attack that killed 5 members of the Revolutionary Guard Corps. The President Sayed Ibrahim Raisi assured that the Israeli action, which he described as terrorist attack, will be responded. The head of the Persian diplomacy, Hossein Amir Abdollahian, cleared up doubts and confirmed that the cooperation with Syria in the fight against terrorism will continue. This Saturday, Israel bombed a residential area in Damascus, the capital city of Syria, killing, in addition to the Persian advisors, 3 Syrian civilians. For Tehran, these crimes are committed with the support of Washington and the complicit silence of international organizations. On Sunday, a Ukrainian attack on a market in Donetsk, eastern Russia, left at least 25 people dead and 20 wounded. The head of the Donetsk People's Republic, Denis Pushilin, reported that the attack occurred at 10:20 a.m. local time, and in addition to the dead, wounded 20 people. The Joint Center for Control and Coordination of the Ceasefire and Stabilization of the Line of Control between the parties reported that 3 shells of 155mm caliber were fired in this area. The last 24 hours, 43 armed attacks were registered against this region, in which 1 civilian was killed and 9 people wounded. In Russia, a fire was reported at a terminal of the Russian gas company Novatek, located in the Leningrad Oblast. According to the authorities, all personnel were evacuated and no one was injured as a result of the fire. A state of alert has been declared in the administrative district of Kingisepp, while firefighters work to extinguish the fire. The causes of the fire are still unknown, so investigations are ongoing. However, local media quoted testimonies of residents who claim to have heard a buzzing sound followed by several explosions, while others claim to have seen drones flying over the area. Novatek is considered to be Russia's largest producer of liquefied natural gas. In Germany, at least 10,000 jobs in the construction sector could be cut amid the energy crisis. According to the Industrial Construction Association, this is the first significant reduction in the number of jobs since the international financial crisis of 2008, when more than 700,000 workers lost their jobs. In this sense, they point out that housing construction revenues fell by 12%, among other causes. The reduction of the purchasing power, on the other hand, the rise in energy prices as part of the measures. We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience, you can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with TeleSUR. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back from the South. On the last day of the G77 plus China summit, leaders and heads of governments demand the transformation of the financial system and condemn the genocide against the Palestinian people. At the closing of the discussions of the integration mechanism from the city of Kampala, delegations point out that in order to obtain different results in terms of development, equity, protection of life and the environment, bold and different actions must be taken. The president of Uganda, who also assumes the presidency of the group, assured that many countries are trying to comply with the 2030 agenda to face the global challenges. The new leader of the G77 denounced the unfair treatment they receive from countries that control the global financial sector. While awaiting a final declaration, the Cuban delegation emphasized that the group came out of Kampala united and strengthened.
The main priority that Cuba has had in its mandate as president of the Group of 77 and China has been precisely to preserve and promote the unity of the group. Because in Cuba's opinion, this is the basic premise for the Group of 77 to play the role it should and can play in the international arena. Remember that we are talking about the largest grouping of countries in the South. It is a mechanism that promotes cooperation and brings together almost 80% of the world population. Although it is a diverse grouping where there are countries with different characteristics, we think that it is precisely this diversity that gives strength to the Group of 77.
Rodolfo Benitez also rejected the colonial practices of rich countries and expressed the group's commitment to face today's challenges.
Of course, the powerful countries have not interest in the global South coming together. It is a bit paradoxical that while we are meeting here in Kampala, the Davos Forum meeting is taking place in Switzerland, where the richest countries of the world are discussing their strategies for world domination and hegemony. Here in Kampala, they have discussed how to play a more active role in the great challenges that we face. We have to do with the promotion of a new international economic order, with the fight against the unilateral coercive measures implemented against several member countries of our grouping.
In this context, Uganda's head of state, Yoweri Museveni, who assumed the temporary chairmanship of the Group of 77 plus China, questioned the demands made on developing countries while ignoring the weight of sanctions. Museveni warned that the Sustainable Development Goals target imposed on developing countries are currently unattainable. Uganda's president invited to reflect on how to fight poverty, hunger, and inequality under occupation, a term he used to refer to the sanctions imposed by the United States and the World Bank. Also in Uganda, the United Nations Secretary-General urged the members of G77 plus China to lead a global change. In his speech at the Third South Summit, UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres stressed the opportunity to build a future of justice, peace and prosperity together with a bloc of countries. In this way, Guterres pointed out that effective global action is required to solve problems. However, the international system is outdated. Guterres also mentioned that the UN Security Council is paralyzed by geopolitical divisions and should be reformed.
Righting our troubled world depends on effective global action. Yet the international system is out of date, out of time and out of step, reflecting a bygone age when many of your countries were still colonized. The United Nations Security Council is paralyzed by geopolitical divisions, and its composition does not reflect the reality of today's world. It must be reformed.
The UN Secretary-General considered it necessary to reorganize the reforms of the international financial architecture in order to respond to requirements of developing countries.
We rely on the G77 plus China to make the summit of the future a success, to seize this opportunity and to find common solutions. The summit will consider deep reforms of the international financial architecture. Financial institutions and frameworks created after the Second World War still largely correspond to the power relations and the global economy of that time. They must be reformed so that they are truly universal, reflect with justice the realities of today, and are much more responsive to the needs of developing countries.
The African Office of the United Nations Children's Fund has raised the alarm about a cholera outbreak affecting at least 10 countries on the continent, with a very serious situation in Zambia and Zimbabwe. Dr. Paul Wakum, regional advisor for Eastern and Southern Africa, said that 200,000 cases and 3,000 deaths have been documented. The most affected countries by the outbreak are Ethiopia, Mozambique, Tanzania, Somalia, and with a very acute crisis, Zambia and Zimbabwe. Alert for the precarious hygienic conditions aggravated by the climatic crisis that has produced droughts and floods. Zambia and Zimbabwe are reporting an average of 1,000 cases per week per country, and the mortality rate has risen to 4%, according to the expert. It is alarmingly high. UNICEF fears that if the outbreaks are not controlled, schools will be closed, as it is already happening in Zambia. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on our social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.